The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Young at Heart. My name is Tom Scarff. I'm with the Albany County Department for Aging, and as always we welcome you here. This program is coming to you courtesy of the fine people at the the Town of Colonie Public Library, and that's where we tape this. You can see it on Colonie Access 17 and on Bethlehem Cable also. Today we're going to talk about something that actually is a problem that a lot of us have from the time we can remember, creating our own menus, cooking our own dinners, or deciding what we want for on our own when we go out to eat when we were younger people. And that's healthy living, healthy lifestyles, formerly known as nutrition, and that was basically what they talked about. But now it's a whole conglomerate of different ways to improve our lives and to live longer. And of course, this program is designed to talk to mostly people who are senior citizens or people who are caregivers for senior citizens, for their grandparents and their parents. Today on Young at Heart, my guest is Denise Kolankowski. And Denise is the registered dietitian and nutritionist with the Albany County Department for Aging. A lot of you don't even know that the County Department for Aging has a full-time person to design the healthy living of older Albany County residents. Denise, welcome to Young at Heart.
Thank you, Tom.
First of all, I said to you before the show, you have a lot of letters after your name.
Yes.
What are those letters? I know MS is Master of Science,
Yep.
but what are the other two?
Well, the MS is for my Master's in Health Services Administration.
Mm-hmm.
I also carry the RDN, which is Registered Dietitian Nutritionist,
Okay.
which is a national recognized term,
Right.
title,
Right.
I should say, through the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And then the CDN is a Certified Dietitian Nutritionist, which is a certification through New York State Ed. It's not a licensure, but it's certification to just, it's a way to enhance the criteria or credentials of the registered dietitian within the state.
So that's a state licensure or certification.
Yeah.
And the other one allows you to practice anywhere in the United States.
No,
Would that
actually not.
Really?
No, it's a national exam that everyone takes, but each state has their own requirements.
Okay.
So you would have to, especially if there's licensure, so if I were to move to Pennsylvania or Ohio or wherever, I would have to check with their local requirements with the state and take an exam again, or prove that I have the educational background.
Okay, well, and this really doesn't have anything to do with what we're going to be talking about in a minute, which is the meat of the whole thing, but I like to get up close and personal, and I'm wondering, are they ever going to have certification in New York?
Yeah, actually, they just had a lobby day on Tuesday down at the Capitol, and it has been, as long as I've been a dietitian, they've been looking at licensure, and I've been in the field for 30 years.
Okay, oh my God.
So, and really aggressively over the last 20. So within that, in the mid to late 90s, the CDN finally was passed. So they did recognize that certification through state ed.
Okay, well, Denise and I know as well as anybody that the wheels of government turn very slowly, but 30 years is really slow. I mean, that's a long time to wait. So hopefully if our good friend John McDonald and Pat Fahey are listening to this, it's time to be able to certify these fine people that work to make our lives healthier in New York State. All right, so Denise, how long have you been with the Department for Aging?
Actually, I started in September of 2015.
Okay, so about 3 years. Almost
Almost,
3 years.
almost.
Okay, and before that you were with?
I was with Cornell Cooperative Extension in Schenectady County for a little over 14 years.
Okay.
And I worked as, my title was a senior resource educator. They have interesting titles, but my job required that I was an RD
Okay.
for that position.
So I guess the first question that I have is what do people do wrong? I mean, what in your history as of working with people that are striving for a better lifestyle, what do we do wrong? What is it that we
So
should
which
look
age
at?
are we talking at?
Well, let's talk about seniors.
Okay, for seniors, I think a lot of seniors have done, it's habits. It's habits, I don't want to always say bad habits, but it's habits that have been acquired through their lifetime. And as people age, things, health becomes affected depending on how their lifestyle was prior to, them entering their older years.
Right.
And then, so you'd have heart disease or diabetes or osteoporosis or all these health conditions that are directly related to nutrition and their lifestyle, physical activity. And then their eyes are opened and they think, oh dear, I should have been better at following a better lifestyle. Knowing or not knowing, it depends on people's interests.
But it's hard.
It is hard.
This is not an easy thing to do. I mean, I walked into the office yesterday, the Office for Aging, Department for Aging, and there was a huge box of pastries,
Yes.
crawlers and donuts and you name it, and I love it, and I'm like, did I take?
You know why they were brought in.
I do, but did I take one? Yes. I didn't while anybody was looking, but on my way down to my other office, I took one.
And that is a huge, okay, so think about 30, 40, 50 years ago when we had smaller supermarkets and we didn't have food in our hardware stores or
In the drugstore.
Food is everywhere.
Yeah.
And when you say food, it doesn't necessarily have to be healthy food. It's just something to consume is in reach.
But with the onset of the big supermarkets, there is a lot more healthy food than there ever was before.
But there's a lot of temptations.
Yeah.
There's a lot of temptations. So there is a lot more healthy food choices, but there's also the issue of placement of food. And there's more in the middle aisles of your unhealthy food choices. Shopping the perimeter of this supermarket is the best idea, but stores also place foods strategically to get you to impulse buy. So that's difficult too. And packaging. This is a healthy cookie.
Yeah.
So people buy that healthy cookie.
There's a lot of supermarkets now that offer, delivery. And that might not be a bad way to go because you don't impulse buy if you're,
That's correct.
if you don't see it and you just want certain things, then it might not be such a bad idea. And I didn't even think about that until you were telling me about the,
Yes.
impulse buying and what the
Yeah.
stores do to entice you to, when you get that, and you see salsa over here, which isn't all necessarily bad. It's right next to 95 different types of chips.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a good opportunity for people to remove themselves from being in the store. The issue that we have with seniors is the fact that a lot of seniors are socially isolated. So at least going out to the supermarket, you get a little stimulation, good or bad.
Right.
But the cost of that. So when you have, especially if you're on a SNAP program where you receive benefits for food, that might be more difficult. So there is disparities that way. And with our program, through the Office for the Aging, where we have our providers throughout the county, which we have 6 providers that provide home-delivered meals and congregate meal programs. So the congregate meal programs, the individual can come in and get a well-balanced meal at a suggested contribution rate. It's just a suggested voluntary contribution rate, and socialized. And also other services may be available to them to help with their quality of life.
Now, when you say other services, for instance?
So, for instance, if they need transportation services, if you, there's 2 prongs to this. If you are looking to get a home-delivered meal and you've just been discharged from the hospital, or a family member has decided that maybe it'd be nice for the individual to receive a home-delivered meal, we have in the county called New York Connects, that's your point of entry. And that is very important because having somebody receive a balanced, nutritious meal in their home is one thing, but before they are put on the program, they have an assessment done by a nurse, and they look at all the aspects in that home.
Okay.
So if somebody needs transportation, if somebody needs food stamps, if somebody has issues with mobility, maybe there's housekeeping that can be brought in, a personal care giver. So a full assessment's done. If the person receives the home-delivered meal, they do an assessment of their nutrition risk. And if they're a high nutrition risk, even with the meal, they can still be a high nutrition risk. I will receive a referral if the senior is willing to have the service. It's strictly voluntary. It's highly encouraged by the caseworker, and I will go out and actually do a home visit and a full assessment and some nutrition counseling.
So you do nutrition education, nutrition counseling, healthy lifestyle counseling. So if you go out, and this is important for any of our caregivers, people who have parents or grandparents or whoever that you watch after. A lot of these services, when a person goes in to do an assessment, even if like Denise went in for an assessment for nutrition, and you see that the client is a hoarder, that's under the DSM. That's considered a disease, and hoarding. She could say to a report and say, I think this person really needs to have somebody come in and talk to them because there's a health risk and there's a safety risk with hoarding. So that's something you could do. It's also something that our home delivered meal drivers.
Yes, the drivers. The drivers have an important job, and many of our drivers with our providers are volunteers,
right?
And they're senior volunteers. One of our meal providers has a volunteer who's been with them for years. It's 89 years old.
And he's delivering meals.
And he's delivering meals, and
Good for him.
And that's a lifestyle that's part of his lifestyle.
Right.
He wants to remain active and involved. And a lot of these seniors don't have anybody else checking in on them. Family lives in another state. So there's a risk factor with that. So they get that check-in. They deliver the meal, they ask how the person is doing that day, and it's a good visual. So there's that contact. And if there is a situation, and it does happen, where somebody has fallen or there's a medical situation, the volunteers are trained through their training program, their orientation, on steps to take. They have to call their supervisor, and if it's an emergency, they call 911 because they all have a phone on them. So it's a safety check.
Right. See, now that's a great program, and that's things that you don't think about when you're thinking about, do the people that I'm taking care of, do they need home delivered meals? You don't think about the ancillary services that come along with that, like a safety check. Person hasn't picked up his mail over the weekend, and it's a Monday, and it's highly unusual. So that would require check on them and find out. So I think that's good. Now the other part you talked about are the congregate meals.
The congregate meal sites.
And the Congregate meal sites. Now, home delivered meals, there's criteria in order to be able to receive it, right? And that would be what? Proof of
It's
inability?
typically somebody that's high risk, that is, many of them are low income individuals, difficulty getting to the store, even with transportation because they have other physical limitations, and the income status, isolated, they can't get out at all. We do have some seniors that are more mobile, but they may not have the means to have enough food to prepare a meal. So there's a lot of different criteria that is evaluated when they go out. The staff goes out and does the full assessment.
But the only criteria for congregate meals is that you're over a certain age.
Yes, 60 years and older. If you have a spouse, a qualified spouse, they can join you, or if you're disabled and live in a housing building that has seniors and disabled, they can participate.
Okay.
But primarily it's 60 years and older. We have 17 locations in the county. They are different locations, housing, senior, let me back up, apartment buildings.
Right.
Senior apartment buildings, they have community rooms. We have Watervliet Senior Center is a standalone building. Green Island, again, is a standalone building. Beltrone in Colonie has their main building, then they have several satellites. So there's different settings for each one of them. We have one senior site in the Hill Towns, which, that's an area that needs, it would be nice if there was more up there, but it's so spread out on the population.
Is there anything in the town of Bethlehem?
Town of Bethlehem has their own program.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Yeah, they have their own program in Town of New Scotland.
Okay.
They can be independent as far as their meal service, but the ones that actually, that our agency reimburses them, we have contracts with them, are the ones that I oversee.
Okay. So the Colonie is a Beltrone center,
Yep.
okay? Because most of our viewers are from the town of Colonie.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty vibrant, Colonie's got a wonderful senior conglomeration of services.
Oh, yeah, they do.
And, from transportation, if you don't know that, and transportation is transportation to and from the congregate meal sites. If you don't have a ride, you would call the Colonie senior services, and they would arrange for you to get a ride to the Beltrone so that you could participate in the congregate meal and then activities after the congregate meal. I think they have a lot of things going on over at Beltrone.
And the town of Guilderland. The town of Guilderland is part of the Beltrone meal service. So they have their congregate senior center, a new one, out on Bavarian Way.
Yeah.
If anybody knows the old Bavarian Chalet.
Yep.
So it's in the exact site. So they have a very active senior program in Guilderland, but the meal that is brought to them comes from the town of Colonie, from Beltrone.
Okay.
So there's a partnership there.
And the people who prepare the meals for the town of Colonie are the Mazzones?
It is Prime Life, it's called.
Prime Life, okay.
And they, the difference though is Mazzone is more of a catering restaurant. With our program, there are state and federal guidelines for the meals. The
Okay.
meals have to be obviously nutritious and balanced. They have to meet specific criteria for the nutritional content of them. So they have to meet the RDAs and RDIs. So it has to be balanced with your protein, carbohydrate, fats, vitamins and minerals, fiber, and the menu is what is served. A few of our locations do have substitutions for maybe the protein. So if fish is being served and if somebody doesn't like fish, they can get chicken. There isn't full meal substitutions, but there are choices.
Now I'm going to throw you a curveball, because
Okay.
a lot of people my age and older will say, look, I'm 80 years old, I've lived a great life. I want salt in my on my pot roast,
Okay.
Or why can't we have cake after dinner and stuff like that? What do you say to them? I mean, because it is a pretty good argument when you think about it.
It is. It's a very good argument. But the meal program, I mean, really, the bottom line is we're talking about tax dollars.
Right.
We're talking about our money
Right.
paying for this. And there's a lot of regulations. There's the dietary guidelines for Americans. There's this prescription of life, to hopefully have people live a healthy life through their diet and their lifestyle. And that's a choice. People can follow that or not follow that, which we started this program discussing that. But we're talking about our tax dollars with the food. What I usually say to them is, first of all, you can add the salt. Some places have the salt shakers there. Try the food first.
Yeah.
That's my number one. Try it first before you don't assume because it's healthy, it's tasteless. Because our meals in our county, the recipes have been standardized and there's a lot of seasonings that have been added to them to make them more flavorful. So always try it first.
Okay.
That should be anywhere you go. Don't grab the salt shaker right away. Yes, somebody's 80 years old, but this is only one meal of the day. And it could be one meal of the week, depending on where they're participating. It's a good visual for people to know how to put a meal together. Mm-hmm. And some of our meals are pretty substantial. Mm-hmm. People are surprised on what they get in the variety. Yeah. There's a lot of variety.
So, all right. So we'll give them the meal as prescribed by the federal government, or
the meals themselves. How the meals are created is through comments from the seniors. Mm-hmm. A lot of the meals are based on what are the favorite meals. There's some foods that aren't going to work are not going to work with this population, but for me and people aging up now, the Congregate Meals will look so different, or whatever programs are around. So you'd probably see more things like quinoa or kale, foods like that, which really aren't embraced as much with this population now, although we do try, you continue to try new recipes and see how people like them.
But so if they want to put salt on their own food, they can.
Yes, if some of our meal site managers just keep the salt away on a counter, so the person actually has to physically get up and get it. And a lot of times people will eat it and say, "Oh, that wasn't so bad. I guess I didn't need the salt." Right. Again, it's
personal choice.
Yeah.
But I think that's wonderful. I mean, I know that Albany County has a sodium reduction program.
Yes, yeah. All the standardized recipes are meet a sodium guideline of about 600 to 800 milligrams per meal, and the recommendation is 2,300 in a day. So that's very, very much controlled. Right. So you're not going to see really high sodium meats or items on the menu regularly, because then that really skews the intake of the sodium. And that's another thing I say to people, if you really want hot dogs, we have a lot of seniors say, "Why don't we ever have hot dogs on the menu?" I said, "You can have that at home." Yeah. This we want to give you, a reasonable sodium content. And I do want to, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. I told you I was going to do that.
Yeah, but that's fine. I do it all the time. You're in the right department.
Oh, I was just going to say that 77% of sodium intake on average is in processed foods. If people aren't reading labels and really diligent. Table salt is adding salt is very, very low compared to that. Because you're only adding it to maybe one item, as opposed to if you buy a lot of processed foods, it's can be in.
Are the meals always hot meals?
No, we do have some
Salads
cold.
and stuff like that?
Yeah, they'll summer menu now is a mixture of hot and cold. They're doing more wraps,
Really?
which are fun, or cold. We have a new item on the menu. It's a chicken taco salad. Not okay. So, and this brings up a
Nope, that's all right.
brings up a good point. Is we have 6 different providers. And they each have their own menus. A lot of the foods are similar, the recipes, but depending on how many days they're open. So for example, Green Island is open Monday through Thursday, and they only serve lunch. So their menu may not be as, they have a lot of variety for their 6 weeks. But somebody like Senior Services of Albany or Ravenna or the other ones that are open 5 days a week, they're going to have more variety because they have that extra day to fit in other items. So you'll see items from one provider and not another. But seniors have to know that they can visit and participate in any Congregate Meals site in the county. They don't, if they live in the town of Colonie, they can go to Colonie, and they're encouraged, obviously, but they can also go to Waterville or to Green Island.
Now, you have to register, though, right?
You do have to register at each site, and the registration is information, obviously, to be able to bill to get the reimbursement
Right.
from the Office for the Aging.
All right. Now, this is not your fault, but I'm going to ask you a question about that.
Okay.
We tell seniors all the time, be careful with the information you give out.
Absolutely.
But then, now the state says, we want you to get more information from these folks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, to me, it's just, it doesn't make any sense, like a tug of war.
Yeah.
What you know, and there are people that actually would rather go without a meal than give the information because they've been inundated with this whole thing about, you know, information fraud and things like that.
So to register for a meal, you do have to fill out a registration form. That is the mechanism that helps the provider be reimbursed. The information we're asking for is really demographic information, meaning name, address. They do ask date of birth because they want to prove that you're 60 years or older, and they the New York State Office for the Aging does take the information. Without the individual's name, they take all the other information and it's called data mining. They're looking at saying, are we capturing low-income areas? What's the average age of the senior participating in our program? Do they live in rural areas? So they're looking at that. The name is removed. All those numbers are just being put in another report, so to speak. We are not gathering driver's license, Social Security, any of that real personal information.
Okay.
That is what people are looking for when they're.
And the people that are taking the information will walk you through it and help you, you know.
Absolutely. The meal site managers and sometimes volunteers at the location will, you'll be given the information to fill out, the registration form, and there's a informed consent that just says that we are putting this in a computer program because that is due diligence, so they know. But the information they're gathering is not, what's the word? The sensitivity of identifying and causing harm, finding information, and stealing identity.
Okay.
I guess it's not enough. Somebody's not going to be interested in that.
Okay.
And it's a very, very safe program. I think it's safer than probably a lot of places you give information, like a credit card company or.
And what is the suggested donation?
The suggested donation throughout the county, Albany County, for a hot or for the meal at the Congregate site is $3.
Okay.
It's suggested, it's voluntary.
Yep.
There are ways to keep it confidential, so there's little envelopes that are provided, so any of the senior can come in, take the envelope, put in, if they only have $1, that's fine. It's not $3 or nothing. If you're really generous and you want to provide more
Right, exactly.
for a contribution, the meals are reimbursed by the Office for the Aging. That additional money helps enhance and expand the program in general. Plus, a lot of seniors feel like they want to contribute.
Right.
They want to be part of it.
Right. It's the same thing with our transportation program and things like
Exactly. It's a voluntary,
Right.
suggested contribution.
that. Well, see, this wasn't so bad, was it?
Why are we done?
We're done. And I want to thank Denise Kolankowski from the Albany County Department for Aging, who directs our healthy lifestyle programs with a focus on nutrition. And we're going to have part 2, I think, maybe next month.
Oh.
But if we do, I would like your wonderful new intern, Shannon, to join us. Shannon's here with us today, and I think that would be great if we could get because you're just coming into, and she's here, by the way. You're just coming into the certification process and everything else, and I would like to have the two of you talk about the future of nutrition and what you see as going on. So, take advantage of the programs that they have in Albany County. Denise gave you the name of New York Connects, 447-7177. 518-447-7177 is the number to call for all things.
And to visit our website.
And that's right. We do have a website at albanycounty.com, www.albanycounty.com. Go to the Department for Aging, and then you can go to nutrition and take a look at everything that we have.
And the whole website, because we have a lot of information.
See, she said she wasn't going to stop talking, which is right. Thank you so much. We'll see you next month once again on Young at Heart.